If you're new here or if you haven't subscribed already, please smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you know when I post, and I do post weekly. This week is going to be thrift flips. So I finally got a chance to go. We don't have too much. We have some antique stores in our area. So it's not really antiques, but we have limited, like, just thrift shops, I guess you say. But anyhow, we do have a Goodwill and a Habitat. So I visited both of them this past week and was able to find some good treasures. So anyhow, this is our thrift flip trash to treasure. And I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you so much. I would love for you to be a part of my community. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks. Bye-bye. Alright, guys, for our first one, I found this little lantern, and it is a pretty solid metal at Goodwill for $4.95, I believe it was. So I'm just going to take my little Lysol cleaning wipes that I have in my craft room and clean it up real good. And then take my little sticker removal tool, which is so neat, and get all the stickers off. Clean it up good. It's very grimy. So clean that good, tape off all the glass, and a trick for getting around the edges is I use my X-Acto knife to trim up any excess and to kind of tuck it up underneath that metal so that none of my glass got sprayed. So just tape all this down real good, and then we're going to take it outside. And I am using some metallic Rust-Oleum paint that's this like gunmetal shade. So probably more original, what the original lantern probably looked like before it got some good aging and patina on it. But I'm just going to paint 2 coats of that. And it's so satisfying when you remove the tape from anything, right? Painting your room or whatever, you remove that painter's tape. That's very satisfying. So I got this cleaned up and it's finished. So I picked up some spindles, deck spindles from Lowe's. And these are cheap, y'all. Don't pass up on these because these are cheap and you can use those for candle holders or whatever, and we will in some future projects. But okay, so when I stain, I use a glove underneath and one of my husband's old socks. So, and why do I use the sock? Because here you go. I can dip my hand down in there, and then I don't have to use the brush on, wipe off with a paper towel excess, because really you're using your hand. And I find that that's not necessary because it's either soaks into your wood or it's going to soak into your little sock that you use it. So for a wood base, now I originally bought a 2x4 and was going to cut it down, and then decided on a thinner piece of wood that I had in the garage. But really should have used the 2x4, so because that metal lantern is kind of heavy, and I found that my base wasn't solid enough, so I'm going to have to go back and reinforce it. But so just make sure you use a good solid base. And then I've got some screws, so I'm simply going to eyeball a center here and then screw on my base onto my spindle. Then for the top portion for the lantern, I'm going to take liquid nails and put it all over the bottom of my lantern piece, and I'm going to put it onto my wooden spindle as well. But that's not gonna, well, that'll hold it ultimately, but to get it secure now, I went and found a nail puncher and took my hand inside the lantern and put a screw down in there as well and screwed it down real good. And then I just put a little votive candle in it, and y'all, this is so adorable. So for $5 and I think about $3 for the spindle. So got a very beautiful yard lantern. So I found this little tin at Goodwill as well for, I think it was $4. So again, I just take my little wipe, clean it up, and take my little label removing tool here and clean it real good. And then I've got this gold, I forgot what color it was. I pointed to it, but you can't see it. But it's a pretty gold color. I did 2 coats of that. And then I've got some rub and buff. I've never used rub and buff before, but I can see why people say this goes a long way. So I was a little too liberal with it, But then I decided I was going to do the whole area basically where the little tulip was at, just to bring that whole part out. So I just took my finger and rubbed that in, and it washes off good, the rub and buff. So now I picked up this pack of chains from Dollar Tree, and I only need 2 of them, so I had to remove one. And I actually did that with my paint can because I just didn't feel like going back and getting a screwdriver or anything, pair pliers. So anyhow, I'm just going to spray that with the gold paint as well. And then I'm going to attach the sides to the little metal can had, you can see the little handles there. So I'm just simply going to attach those. Then while I was at Lowe's, I found a pretty little flower that I liked. I don't know what kind of flower this is. This is something annual. So found a cute little flower. I'm going to simply fill my little tin with soil. Oh yeah, punch your holes in the bottom for drainage because it did not have a hole in the bottom. So just, yeah, that makes my camera wobble all around, doesn't it? So punch your holes for drainage, fill it up with your soil, plant your little flower in it, and then I just simply hung it from a shepherd's hook in one of my little flower gardens. And you've got an adorable little plant hanger, and it's just swaying with the wind. Next project, I love these little silver trays. I have a couple in my home. So again, I'm just going to clean it up, and I'm going to take some larger wooden beads that I have on hand, and I used a combination of super glue and E6000 to glue those to the bottom. And it had a little rust spot on here, so I'm just using my little sanding blot to simply get that off before I take my tray outside. And I'm going to paint it with 2 coats. There you can see the little wooden beads on the bottom for just to raise it up. 2 coats of this ultra matte spray paint. And then after that dries, this project is done. And I'm going to show you where I styled it in my closet, holding some of my perfume bottles. Of course, you could stick this tray anywhere. And that was an easy project. Next, I found this little, I'm not sure what kind of metal this was. Wasn't sure how to clean it up. It had a lot of aging on it. So after I cleaned it with my baby wipe and all, I tried that jewelry cleaner you saw sitting there. I tried mayonnaise, but again, I'm not sure exactly what kind of metal it is. So it still looks aged, but it is clean. But I'm not worried about the aged look. That's fine with me. So I'm going to take macrame cord, and I made my strands fairly long because I wanted to do at least 3 knots macrame on it. So I didn't measure it, just made it fairly long. I'm going to hot glue those to the bottom. Now you're going to need 12 strands total. So you're going to do pairs. So you got 6 pairs. So you're going to take the opposite sides of the pair. So an outside of one pair and outside of another pair. And then you're going to knot. And do that all the way around. And then I'm going to do that 2 more times with knots. So you just keep grabbing the opposite outside edges and knot. And macrame cord, the good thing about macrame cord is that it's forgiving because it's the texture to it. If your knots are not lining up, you can easily move it around. So you can use whatever cord here, but the macrame is very forgiving. So just make it as even as possible. And like I said, I did 3. And then when I got to the end, so you've got 3 strands, if that makes sense. When you get to the end, that you're just going to simply tie into a knot. And then what I did was, so you're going to have 3 knots. And then what I did was that right? Or 4 knots? 4 knots make more sense. Anyhow, I don't know. But anyhow, you're going to just tie knots. So take 2 sides together. You see me there. Take 2 sides together. Tie a knot. I took my hot glue just to help hold the knot in place and then cut down my strands. So I've got some floral foam. I am going to hot glue that to the bottom just to make sure it's secure in there. And then I found this plant little hanging plant from IKEA. That was a hard. They meant business when they put that plant in that little pot. I had a time pulling it out the pot, but I pulled it out the little plastic pot it came in. I'm going to hot glue that into my floral foam, and then I'm going to just simply, I wanted at least one long strand poking through the bottom of each of my cords. So here it is hanging up. You could use moss if you needed to as a filler, but you're not going to see, hang it up high enough, you're not going to see it. So anyhow, and I got you a reminder up here. Hit that subscribe button, y'all. I really appreciate it. All right, our last project is I found this pretty vase, and it was a yellow tone. Can't really see it for the lighting here, but it was a yellow tone. I found it from Habitat for Humanity, so I just cleaned it up. And I wanted more texture on it, so I am taking and that was not chalk paint, that's just acrylic paint, and I'm going to take baking soda and mix that to kind of a thicker consistency. And then I didn't really like the white, so I'm going to tone that down on my second coat, and I'm even going to add more texture with some salt. One of my subscribers gave me a hint last week to use salt as a texture, so, and I've seen people use sand too, so just to add a little bit more texture to it. And then I'm going to use this sand color to darken it up some. And I'm also going to mix in some more white and get that to a consistency that you can work with, and then put on another coat of that. And then that way you've got some of the texture sticking out from the salt there. And I just did one coat of this as well. So just 2 coats in total, but I wanted good coverage, so that's why I went back. And then I just didn't like that white. It just looked a little too stark. So I wanted to tone it down and bring something a little more natural. And you can see, even with this lighting here, that it is just changing the color of it. But this was a beautiful vase already. I'm just going to take some jute twine and do a couple of rounds around the top of this and style it with forsythia, and it's finished. Thank y'all so much for watching. I appreciate it. Bless you.